Hey guys, Monday night 6 p.m. ish. So it's the Monday night Q&A. Just got my laptop here. Just had to close it to walk upstairs. So I'm just opening that. So hopefully I can see any comments and things like that coming in. Just going to kill the calendar so it doesn't get any overlays. Facebook. So it turned out alright in the end today. It is looking a lot nicer now than it was at early this morning, 6:15 when I was out doing my lunges and recording some lunge and listen videos. As I said earlier on a different video on morning coffee over on the Facebook page, I tend to do the lunges every day. It's just I do some of the videos all together in one go. So I think I probably did about 400 lunges this morning without even thinking about it because I was talking at the same time. And some of the videos are a little bit longer this week than they were last week, just with the content, just with the things I had to say. So I hope you're getting into the lunge and listen, even if you just do it as a listen. Do you know what? Hopefully there's some good stuff in there that you can apply and think about and use with what you're doing, training, health and fitness wise. There's actually a lot of good principles in there just to life in general that I'm trying to get out and share. I put it out at 6:30 this morning, and I think I want to try and do that every day roughly around that time, because I want there to be having that focus in a sense from the time you get up. And I know a lot of people join us for morning coffee over on the Facebook page, and if you haven't seen that, that's me and Hannah and the kids bobbing and the dogs there, and just talking about the day. That's more kind of life, that is, family life, integrating health and fitness, talking about some of the things that go on in the world a little bit more, and particularly kind of how to navigate social distancing and the circumstances we're in now, kind of just from our perspective of being parents, married, 2 kids. Homeschooling's a big thing for a lot of people right now. Hannah and I have both worked in education. People are struggling mentally. That's Hannah's job now. She works in a residential program with girls with life controlling issues. So she's really up on that sort of stuff. And anything we can offer to help. So that's why, in a sense, we just keep putting stuff out there. And if it is good for you, that's great. I think that there's more support people can put out and offer at the moment across the sphere, whatever it is, the better. And one of the things we want to keep doing is keep doing it. So the time might change as life changes. Clearly, not much has changed very much now at all. But as life changes and kind of goes back more to normal, then hopefully we'll be able to keep up with these things. That's certainly the plan. Times might change. Morning coffee might have to go back to being that bit earlier, like it was when Hannah was going off to work at 7:30 and I was in the gym earlier, or sorting the kids out, or whatever that looks like. So that's the idea. Keep things in place. 6 p.m. might not be a good time for these sort of things in the future, just because, who knows, gym's back open, back into that sort of routine. Going to have clients and classes and things to do, but we'll keep stuff going as best we can. So that's the plan. What I'm going to talk about today, and the reason I'm just opening up this other device, because the actual article I'm going to refer to, one of the articles I'm going to refer to, is on here, and I can share it onto Facebook from here. Again, it's not the only article about this, it is just a good example. I've actually seen a different one on the same website. So what I'm going to share is a training methodology today, and I'm going to have to qualify it a little bit because it isn't necessarily for everyone. The reason being is it needs to be quite intense to be effective. Now, I've touched on this in just a quick live video a couple of weeks ago just out on Facebook, and then shared to some other places, and that was about burning fat and fat burning workouts. I've talked about, I think, again on here, fat burning within a workout is not really a thing. You see on the cardiovascular machines often there is a chart that says this zone, this lower level line, you're in the fat burning zone. Depending on your age, that's what your heart rate should be, and then up here is the cardiovascular zone. The problem with that, we're live and it's going. So I can drop this comment on here if I can get to move up. There we go. The problem with that is that physiologically in the body, there is not a pathway that can mobilize fat quick enough to actually be used at the time of exercise. So as soon as our heart rate is elevated, our breathing rate's elevated, and we're using our muscles, then the glucose that's stored in the muscles will get used up first, and then glycogen, particularly stored in the liver and other places in the body, will get mobilized from around the body to come and replace that glucose, a broken down glucogen, similar sort of spelling to glucose. It's kind of like a bunch of glucose put together. Cells can break it down and off it goes. So the part of the cell that does all that stuff is called the mitochondria, and that's like a little power station, and there's lots of them in our cells, particularly in our muscle cells, because they need lots of energy. Loads in the brain as well, in the brain cells, certainly the cells that supply the energy to make the nerves work and all that sort of thing. There's plenty of those there. That fat can't be broken down quick enough. Fat tissue, fat cells are a different composition to glucose and glycogen. They have the same chemicals there, they're just arranged in a different way, chemically bonded together. Chemistry used to be my main subject as a science teacher. So they're like a massive long chain. Might have heard of triglycerides and taking MCT oil and things like that. Basically, some of the letters in those things stand for long chains. It stands for chains of chemicals that need to be chopped up so the body can utilize it. The body can't do that fast enough to fat. It's chains to be able to then use it straight away as energy. So it's not a readily available source. Actually, what would happen is, say you were doing an ultra distance activity, like maybe a massive long run or walking continuously for 24 hours or something crazy like that, then the body would preferentially actually start to break down muscle faster than it can even break down fat. Because if you're still continuing with the activity and you've run out of glucose and glycogen, then actually it's easier to break down muscle to create more energy, kind of energy currency in the body, than it is to break up the fat still. And often a lot of people that do those sorts of things, you see them, they're super lean, and some of that is because of the training, and they get, the muscle mass kind of comes down as well. They'll have potentially an ultra runners will have amazing calves and amazingly defined quads and things like that. Cyclists that cycle super long distances and things like that, same sort of thing, but they're light and they're lean because they don't carry much fat anyway. That's usually natural, and also there is that potential for muscle to be broken down more often than not. They're usually much superior to most people cardiovascular wise, therefore can keep going for longer, and they've obviously conditioned the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, all the muscles, all the body parts they're using to be able to keep on going like that. That's a little bit of an aside. We can't break down fat is the upshot, not directly. What we can do, and what research is showing, and that's why I am adding this article here, and I will find another couple of articles, we can mobilise fat. That's a different sort of thing. We mobilise it, but we're not going to use it up. So I've just added the link to one particular article on a website that has got scientific papers attached to it, if you so wish to go and read those. The coaches that have written this particular article are internationally renowned, very well regarded. It's not kind of Insta influencer, dodgy science, or something random that's come from nowhere. It is, these guys are top level coaches, and there's another couple of articles which I say I'll try and find more, not to back it up. Not to back it up in terms of I fully believe this is the thing, but more to show that there's definite research going on in this area, and actually some of this stuff we have to kind of test out for ourselves. And sometimes with science and research, particularly in health and fitness and sports science and things like that, people have been doing stuff for a long time that works, but there's been no scientific studies done about it. And then someone with the inclination, or that works at a university doing a PhD, something like that, will come along and actually say, do you know what, I'm going to test that concept now, and actually going to put a properly controlled experiment around it as best he can when he's working with people in terms of experimental controls, and see if it actually works, see if there's an actual basis for it. And that's where a lot of researchers come from. So I often hear a lot of people saying, I only work with the correct science of health and fitness. I only work with if something's been researched, and that's good, and it works both ways, because people come up with all sorts of crazy misconceptions in nutrition and training and stuff like that, and actually sometimes it doesn't stand up. But other times there's stuff that stands up that hasn't been researched, and sometimes that gets dismissed because it's not been researched, and then sort of later on someone comes on and goes, actually, do what I've shown that is true now. The reason one I talked about a couple of weeks ago, last week with the training thing, was that about around the hip thrust compared to the glute, compared to the squats in terms of glute development. And basically, anyone who's ever squatted consistently will have experienced improvement in their glute strength and potentially size. The hip thrust came almost out of nowhere in a sense about 15 years ago and has gained massive popularity. It might not necessarily be the best exercise taken just as one exercise, say once a week, to build your glutes, but the fact is it's repeatable more often, therefore it's got a benefit to glute development. So actually probably a good program would have both in. They're just putting that out there, and that's what I like to do with my training, and when I'm training people as far as I can, we'll have both movements in there depending on their goals and whether it's relevant. Both movements will be in there. So backing this up and saying actually it's a little bit experimental, you might even say it's a little bit cutting edge. It's not what every single trainer or coach would say. Most trainers or coaches would say you can't spot reduce your fat. Well, you can't physically burn it away by doing an exercise. You can't do 200 crunches a day and expect your stomach to turn into a six-pack or tighten up. There'll be an effect on the muscle, but there won't be any potentially much difference in the fat stored there, unless we are definitely in a deficit. So I've got to qualify this and say, we've got to be in a calorie deficit for this. We've got to be doing all the nutrition stuff right. This doesn't supersede, this style of workout, this protocol doesn't supersede any nutritional stuff. We can't outwork the wrong nutrition in a sense, because most of us haven't got the time or the capacity to outwork it. And that's what it's actually about when people say that. If you overconsume by 1,000 calories a day, which is easy to do when you get a pizza in, believe me, then it's very, very hard to work that back, definitely in one go. You know, I've seen people do it on a spin bike in an hour, say, look, I've burnt 1,000 calories. I very much doubt you've burnt 1,000 calories. I think that spin bike is calibrated differently to the one next to you. The person next to you has done 400. It's probably worked just as hard as you, and you've burnt about the same. It's just you're on a spin bike that has a really, really fast clock, and has clocked it up massively. And that's why I say to people with a spin bike example to try and use the same spin bike regularly, and then just try and beat what you've done. Because I know for sitting on the front bike, being an instructor, you know, I can consistently see what my calories are day after day, same sort of time, 45 minutes or half an hour. I know if I've worked harder or not. I can feel it and I can see it to an extent, and I kind of have little games with myself of I'm going to get this many calories per track or this many calories per session. But back onto this protocol, what does it involve? Well, it involves a theory of fat mobilization. It involves a theory that if you work an area of your body with exercises that will challenge it, and then do a complementary exercise that is cardiovascularly intense, therefore requires different stimulus on the body in a different area, then you can start to metabolize and start the breakdown of the fat cells in the first area. So, for instance, I've just put together a workout for a client, and with a couple more examples, I will share this a bit wider in terms of the actual workouts themselves, particularly targeting the upper body and the arms. Now, it's a female client, and the reason they want to target that area is because, like a lot of ladies, the fat storage actually goes up into the arm as well, the bingo wings. It's just one of those areas. For guys, it's the front stomach. That's why guys often like to do lots of core work, as do ladies. And there's nothing wrong with doing core work, but under proviso, you understand that extra core work isn't going to necessarily tighten your stomach in terms of the fat. It's got to be worked in with something else. And that's actually the basis of some of the workouts I use at the gym, and I definitely use in MW Fitness Online, without stating that it's this protocol. So cardio and core is this protocol, just have not stated it as that. Doing some of the Tabata stuff is this protocol, I've just not stated it. So that's why I have a mixture of upper body, lower body, core, abs exercises across the different workouts across the week, because theoretically we're going to hit some of this stuff that I'm going to talk about. So we work an area with resistance exercises, the right sort of ones, maybe 2 or 3 exercises stacked together, And in this example, I've gone for the arms. So one of the sets is upper tricep extension with dumbbells, because it's a home workout. Round to kickbacks, so hitting the triceps twice, two different positions, two different lengths, so long position, short position. And then from there, it goes into kettlebell swings. This person's got a kettlebell to use. So we've gone from targeting the arms to now working predominantly in the lower body. So we're going to do the upper body intensely for reps, and then we've added the kind of mobilization exercise to get the blood flow going is then for time. I want to make it quite intense. Another example, I've got one for more specifically for biceps, gone for hammer curls, straight to normal open-handed curls, then into presses, curl and press, and then round to mountain climbers on the floor or just on a low bench. So reps, resistance, and then it's gone to a high intensity movement to make that fat mobilization happen. Now, that's really the difficult part in some ways, is that the kind of last part of each set should be that intense. It needs to be really intense to have the effect. So if you can't do really intense movement, then this is not a protocol that is going to work for you at this time. Now, hopefully, with injuries and things like that, people are moving towards being able to do things like this. Another way of doing this, and I've used this with clients, is to do the exercises such as the curls, the kickbacks, whatever area you're targeting, and then go on to something like a bike or a spin bike and do that intense part there. It's the methodology that's important, not the exercises necessarily. We do need to target the right exercise in the right place, and as I've said lots of times already, the right exercise for me isn't necessarily the right exercise for somebody else. It's the methodology that counts. So it could be, for instance, focusing on mobilizing stomach fat. You could do a couple of abs exercises complementary, maybe put a plank in there as well, a moving plank exercise in there as well, and then get some cardio in somehow. That could be onto a bike, a static bike, something like that. For somebody who can be running, a sprint would be appropriate. I've done that myself. I've done that with other people. If it's want to target the glutes, glute bridges, hip thrusts with a band on, something like that, and then into something intense that's going to target that area. Maybe something like jump squats, just for instance. These are all just examples of things that could go together. So what I'm saying is this methodology is something potentially to try out. As I say, it's not for everyone because of the intensity of some of the parts, and maybe actually something to work towards to build up a level of fitness, then actually be able to substitute this sort of style of workout in. And as I said as well, MW Fitness Online workouts are utilising this to a greater or lesser degree across the whole week. This is the style that is HIIT training in a sense. This is just putting a kind of slightly different focus on it to be more focused on potentially slightly smaller muscle groups, arms, chest, glutes, lower body to upper body differences, and working it through that way. It might not even be something to do now. It might be something to wait and be able to do back in the gym when, say, going to target the stomach a little bit more. Then actually using a row machine would be a really, really good complementary exercise. It's tough on the core in the first place, and the legs and the arms are working. 30-second good hard sprint on a row machine, then having a breather and back to the abs exercise options that you might want to use is going to be a phenomenal way of doing it. At Flax, there's the hip mills there. That's a really cool way of doing it. You can actually do the whole thing on the hip mill by doing a slow kind of prowler push, then taking the resistance right down and going into a 20-second sprint. Done that before as well. Done both of those, and done the abs exercise before. It's just getting the right methodology to do this particular protocol. So check out the article. It essentially says what I've just been talking about, probably maybe in a more concise way. As I said, there is more evidence out there of this with different articles and different methodologies that other coaches have posted, and I'll keep trying to find that again. Obviously, I came across this probably, well, it would be 2016 now. So good 4 years I've been kind of using this. Good 3.5 to 4 years I've been using this within my training at different times, and used it with other clients, particularly a couple of guys I've worked with that have worked towards shows and things like that. Because when you work out intensely as well, you are more likely also to preserve the muscle that you've built, which is a good one for anyone as well, aiming to get really, really lean. If you utilize a muscle, the body wants to keep it. When you don't utilize it as much, the body has the tendency to potentially metabolize it if you're into a deficit, which is someone preparing for a show or really trying to get lean, that potential is high. And that's why there's different methods of alleviating that. One of the main methods of alleviating that is still training hard. There's a saying, and I heard Flex Lewis say this, and it's got a bit wider since that. What built the muscle, what built your capacity, what built your fitness will keep it. You don't necessarily need to change your training very much when you're working towards a slightly different goal. Main thing to change is actually the nutrition. That's pretty, I would say, quite universal. Whoever and whatever you're doing, and nutrition has to match the output and has to then be adjusted to match the goal from that output. So, in a sense, this is just kind of adding to that, and because of the element of difficulty and intensity with this, it's highly likely to preserve the muscle. That's why it's a really useful protocol. So, I will put some more stuff out in this group about this. This is the good stuff that I'm keeping for you guys at the moment, and I'm going to take the person who I wrote the program for today through that workout one-on-one via video this week, see what they think. And it's obviously, I've said this morning, particularly and over the weekend with some of the videos we've been putting out, is it's not one workout per se that causes a great effect. It's not a week at a time or 2 weeks at a time. It's building this up over time. Now, the guys that are in my 60-day program, obviously we're working over 60 days. We're already talking about beyond that in terms of what we build into the lifestyle and routine in these 60 days. It's got to be maintainable on from that. And seeing more and more kind of fitness people saying that, make sure that whatever you do for your 28-day challenge, your 8-week transformation, whatever it is, make sure it's sustainable beyond that, because it's not like you can do something for a short period of time, get the results, and then go back to where you were, because everything else will go back to where it was as well, which might well be your weight, your body composition, your strength, whatever it is you've been working on, is also going to diminish over time. And there's ways to alleviate that, and there's ways to navigate that. But really, for me as a professional, I want always the plan that someone starts with to be a plan that is tweaked and developed on the way, but is the plan they can actually keep going with more or less forever, unless circumstances change or goals change. It's got to be habitual, routine, easy to integrate. Put out a video this morning, keep it simple, seriously, because it needs to be that simple. It needs to be kept where actually it's not that I'm doing this for this time and the rest of the time I'm not doing it. It's actually, I'm going to have these principles and learn how they work with the nutrition, the training, what I can do, what I'm capable of, understand that I need to push a little bit harder every now and again, get up to another level, just steady away, and then the results will come and be kept because I'm continuing down that line. So I hope that's been useful. I hope that you can watch it back if you haven't caught all of it now. I'll save it as usual. I'll put it on YouTube for a rainy day to kind of explain this if I share it wider. Just about to sort out the website to have a membership area. That's all bought and paid for today. So be doing that. And this is the type of thing I want to make sure is accessible easily in there. So have a really good evening. Working out tomorrow at 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. So look forward to that tomorrow. Tabata in the morning, weights in the evening. Have a good one. Have a good Monday night. And I'll catch you tomorrow.